Charlie says,
"Are you ready for the Prodigy posse?"
Yeah, hi, we're the Prodigy.
We try and bring different styles together, all my favourite styles, to make the Prodigy music.
They hit the time absolutely right.
As an outfit, you know, they're perfect.
The Prodigy are really a tough band.
10 out of 10.
I thank you!
The Prodigy are one of the most successful and certainly most exciting bands to come out of Britain in the last 10 years. But the band are more than that. They're one of the few truly musically innovative acts to make an impression on the music scene worldwide.
Everyone's grown up with dance music. They've had rave and technology and beats and hip-hop, and they incorporate all those elements, and yet they've got the rage and this kind of screaming anger and the nihilism of a band like Nirvana. And plus, it's a lot more up-to-date and modern sounding than Oasis, and they look great.
They, I think, were one of the very first dance acts to actually cross over to perform live.
You know, I've worked with everyone from Pink Floyd to the Bay City Rollers before I did parties, and I've never seen something like that. That was pure energy, excitement.
They've been on the cover of Kerrang, which is a heavy metal magazine. They go on the cover of Mix Mag, which is a dance magazine. They go on the cover of Q, which is just a mainstream, very, very safe magazine. They go on the cover of The Enemy. They go on the cover of Select. They go on the cover of The Face. They go everywhere.
The whole Prodigy story really just pivots on one moment. And on the one side, they're a sort of respected but small rave act. And on the other side, this huge phenomenon. And the one moment in which this whole thing pivots is the day that, for some unknown reason, Keith wandered into the studio and said, "I want to sing on that record."
He just became the kind of figurehead, in a way, of the Prodigy, because he didn't mind being up there, taking centre stage, and just being as mad as he could be.
Being on stage and you're trying to give it your all and sort of like, let off and let everything out. Well, to be able to open your mouth and add to that aggression with vocals is phenomenal. So, yeah, really good fun.
The Prodigy are just about the only act to come out of the rave scene and conquer every crowd, from underground clubs to stadium-sized gigs.
The reason they've managed to go further than any other dance act is they perform and other dance acts don't.
With dance music, I mean, it's obviously very, very difficult to perform, because if you've got a proper rock band, there's always something to look at. You know, they're actually playing instruments. But with dance music, up to that time of the Prodigy, there were very few acts who were able to actually perform on a stage and hold the audience's attention. So that was a really good thing about the Prodigy.
You know, when you're standing here saying, "Oh, well, what do you do?" and that kind of thing, it's kind of like, well, come and see the live show. If you see the Prodigy live, it's almost incessant. It's so powerful and it doesn't dip at all, and anyone can understand it. You don't need any kind of knowledge. A 5-year-old can go, "Yes, I understand what they're telling me. They're telling me teenage adrenaline thrill."
The way I used to introduce the boys was, I don't know whether they remember, but it goes a little something like this. It's an old Barrett and Levy tune, which I've sort of twisted and turned around to sound good. It goes a little something like this. "Hey, natty dreadlocks, now where you come from? You must have 2 stickers and see them under your tongue. Could I be say, no officer Lord, you must be mad. Prodigy massive, but a rough MC called we go strictly shag." Then I used to get the crowd to go, "Whoa." I used to say, "Whoa," and they say, "Whoa," and I'd say, "Hey, hey," and then I'd go, "Make some noise for the Prodigy," and they just used to erupt, you know what I mean, and that was it.
They've got all the ingredients. You know, Liam on the keyboards, he keeps himself well back, doesn't really want to be involved. But Keith and Leroy make up for that, because them on stage, I mean, Keith just goes mad, absolutely mad. He drains himself, because like at the end of the performance he's got no energy left to give, because he's just given so much. And of course Maxim, who is the MC, is also pretty good.
The Prodigy are more a live band, do you know what I mean? I mean, you don't hear me on no CD really, as such, because it's more music, do you know? You don't see Keith dancing. You know, there's two sides of you know, of the band. There's the music side and there's a live element side. We're more of the live element side.
Keith sort of like describes the music and the way he dances. You know, if there's a really mad section in the song, the way Keith will be acting on stage kind of like describes. So it's more than dancing. It's more like acting in a way, acting out the music.
As soon as Liam's written a new tune, we can't wait to get it in there. You know, we just get so excited about doing that tune live, because that's when it actually, you know, it gets sucked out of the studio, it goes through the big sound system and really becomes like real and really big, you know.
Like the way they've progressed in putting their stage show together, the production on stage is just over the years has got better and better and better. I mean, I remember one time in Ireland when Keith used to come on stage in a like plastic ball. It was just like an inflated plastic ball. He used to be inside, coming on stage, and I mean, things like that. They just really, they're the wicked. You know what I mean?
One of the reasons that they're so good live and extremely popular is they just do it so much. This year, I think they're up to 65 gigs, and it's October. Last year they played about 75. They've been touring more or less constantly for 4 years, which is more than most sort of rock bands famous for being out on the road forever do.
They've got that much power and effect, that much presence that they could put on a party. They wouldn't even need to have another band there or anyone supporting. They could just put on a party, have a little bit of mellow music. They could come on, kill it.
Religiously, this is every time we play, we spend an hour going up and down in a lift. If we don't, it just doesn't happen, does it?
We have to elevate ourselves, you know, to our next level.
The guys themselves, they're really funny anyway. Some of the things that we used to get up to on tour, and some of the things that they used to do. So up boys, I won't say nothing. Yeah, they're really just comical guys anyway, definitely.
We're the sort of people that as soon as you walk into a bar or a restaurant, people turn around, they look, they stop, they want to become your parents all of a sudden and tell you that you are wrong. You are not part of society, but you know, you are.
The Prodigy are just a lot of lads, basically. This is my impression. I mean, they were really natural, really nice, friendly geezers from the East End of London.
After 3 huge albums, worldwide acclaim from press and public, the band still choose to live in Liam's hometown. Braintree in Essex remains home to the 4, who don't seem interested in the chance of a Malibu beach house.
Keith's yellow car in his hair makes him stand out a bit, but lots of people in Braintree have got different colour hair, so he doesn't really stand out, but everybody knows the green hair from Prodigy and stuff.
Back in the 80s, Keith's life was very different. He was a pupil at the Boswell School in Chelmsford, Essex.
Keith was taught a great deal in this room here. He would come for his English lessons. He was a kind of lad who didn't find education terribly easy, but he used to have to work hard to get everywhere that he did. But he coped okay and did quite well in the end. This is a little door where the Flint person used to come through into the rabbit's run. And he used to spend a great deal of time in here, usually every lunchtime, and falling in the pond, and most break times. He was responsible for it for about 2 or 3 years while he was here, I think. Very often he used to pick up the rabbit and give it little cuddles and gain solace from it. I would never have imagined that he would become a pop star. He was a relatively quiet young person, quite small, very unobtrusive really, and the thought that he would become famous really never entered my head.
think it's pretty cool that Keith went to the school. It's like, we went here, and it's like really cool. I think it would be really cool if he come to perform in one of our assemblies or something. I think that would be great.
Meanwhile, Liam was at school in nearby Braintree.
Apparently Liam got on really well at school though. He don't look like the type of person who would, but he did. Because when you speak to teachers, they said they like him and everything. They got on really well with him.
One of Liam Howlett's drawings was on the wall, yeah, and I nicked it off her for my cousin because she wanted it. It's one in pen of his dragon knight and fine line. It was quite good, it was a good drawing.
They shop in the local supermarkets quite often. See them uptown on Saturdays.
Leroy used to live down the road from me. He lived about 10 houses away from me, so I wasn't really old enough then to know like who was like singing, but he babysitted me a couple of times.
My friends are luckily enough are kind of true enough to just take me as the person that I was prior to the band, and because they've grown along with it, they don't really notice, and they go, oh, I read that you did there, I didn't know you was, and I like that, because that's how in your face you are. Your best friends don't really know quite your achievement.
I met one of them walking down the street, and I just went past oh, it's Liam, and just waved at me, went hi, and just walked past him, oh.
I went round to interview Liam Howlett in his redesigned barn in Braintree in Essex, and I can recall walking up the drive, and there was a huge sports car in the drive, and as I opened the door I walked through, and in the hall facing me was this enormous Aztec sculpture, and I thought that was very Spinal Tap, very sort of rock and roll cliche, so I was slightly anxious of when I was going to meet him, and he turned out a very charming bloke, very Essex, very down to earth, I think would be a good way to describe it.
It was like a family atmosphere. So there was a lot of guys, like DJs, and even a lot of bands that they used as well. They knew them, all from down that way, all from Essex and that. And even when I come on the scene, and all the lighting guys, the sound guys, everyone knew one another.
They were nice people. Everyone around them was really nice. The backup, the staff, the dancers.
We just want to work with the people. We're a family of what we do now, and we stick with it. And the people who come to the shows are part of that family. The people that do the records and sell them, make them and cut them, they're the part of it. And it's very tight, We
was in Ireland, and we was all sitting in Keith Flint hotel, his hotel room, and it was all sitting there, and then the phone's gone. So Keith's gone into the bathroom to answer the phone. Then he's gone, Ruff, can you pick up the phone? There's someone on the phone for you. It's this Irish guy, which I thought was an Irish guy, saying to me, oh, is that MC Ruff? Is that MC Ruff? I'm like, yeah. And he's gone, oh my God, you've got to come down into the hallway and meet these two guys. They're screaming, they want your autograph and everything. And I was like, oh, what? I was really flattered, and it's like, all right, boys, I've got to go downstairs, you know what I mean? And like, I've gone downstairs, there's no one there, isn't there, you know what I mean? I've gone back upstairs and they're just all laughing at me. It's Keith Flint in the other room on the phone going, hello, Ruff, can you come downstairs?
When we first went to interview The Prodigy in '92, we knew that Liam was the main guy in the band, and he was pretty young at the time. He was in his early 20s, and we'd heard these stories that he'd had piano lessons and was like a brilliant keyboard whiz and a kind of computer whiz and stuff like that. So I said to him, are you called The Prodigy because you're kind of a child prodigy?
Means gifted child, but that wasn't the reason why we called the band that, Well, I was in the studio writing the first record, and I was using the Moog Prodigy keyboard, and I sort of saw it and thought, yeah, that'll do,
Well, I really like that. Most people don't know that they're actually named after a synthesizer.
Basically, the whole band started in the beginning of 1991 when we were all going to the same club.
There was a club called The Barn in Braintree that Mr. Siat, the Shaman, used to DJ at, and that was the first big rave club, first big acid club in that part of the country, and they all had a similar hip-hop background.
No one will ever know where we come from, our roots in the dance scene are so underground and so strong. No one really knows what that was all about. You had to be there.
Keith and Leroy, the two dancers in the band. They heard just like a demo tape.
Keith and Leroy heard the tape and basically said, I really like the music, can we get together, do some stuff? And we just, luckily enough, the first PA was in a really good London club.
In North London, the Labyrinth is a mecca for ravers looking to dance the weekend away. Joe Vietzerick negotiated the first Prodigy booking, and he still runs the club today.
He asked £80 for something like a 1 hour show involving about 15 people, which for £80 it was worth it for a giggle, but what started as a giggle obviously turned into a phenomenon.
They said to everyone in the crew, they just said, does anyone know how to MC? Does anyone know how to MC? And I said, well, yeah, I do. You know what I mean? So they said, well, go on for us and just introduce us.
We had about 600 in that night, and I've never ever seen anything like it. They came the place. There was people jumping off the walls. It was excellent.
It definitely changed me. I mean, I was just basically, I was a no one, really. I was part of a band, part of a double act with a DJ called Rough and Ready, and it was just like bang, you're MC Rough, you're the Prodigy. You know what I mean? You can come and MC on all their tours, come and introduce us, and it was just like from zero to hero sort of thing. You know what I mean? It was unbelievable.
Start of the night, they looked great. They all had their little different uniform or outfit on or whatever. Come the morning, they was like us, dripping wet, hair soaking wet, clothes soaked to the skin.
They had mad like clowny outfits on, didn't they? Sort of black and white triangle.
Keith was a clown, Leroy had long stripes on. They all wore something really outrageous and, done them well.
When the Prodigy first started out, they looked like what they were, which was 4 ravers from Essex. In some pictures, Keith is wearing white gloves, which is a sign of the band's roots, as it were. Smog masks, the fishing hats, that whole kind of look was very much the look of the hardcore scene around 1991, which is when the Prodigy first appeared. And they wore these white gloves, because those sort of, you do your own, what you do is you project your own light show while you're out of your mind, this thumping, hardcore experience music going on.
We weren't prepared for the way they dressed. Most of the PAs before that had literally been a drum machine and one dancer and the odd strobe or something like that. No real preparation, no choreography. But then they came in, and as much as you could see, they was a little bit nervous. Once they got their stuff together, it was so different. It was so energetic. It was just fresh. And it shocked us all. It shocked us all, so much so that we just kept booking them for as long as we could possibly get them for their ridiculous price. I didn't know that was the first real thing that they'd tackled, and it wasn't until afterwards that they sort of said something like that. But you would never have known. I mean, if that was their first event, then there's a lot of other bands who'd like to have done that for the first time out.
I signed to XL Recordings straight away, which was really good.
I just had a demo tape I was quite happy with. I made them sort of sit down and listen to it instead of just sending it in the post, And I guess they just liked it, They really liked the style of it. They thought it was quite original in its time, and I think they liked the kind of really ropey quality of it, because it was just recorded at home in my bedroom, and the kind of really raw feel of the music, and they just signed me up straight away. It was quite nice.
I was with them for 3 years, from 92 till 95. And they're there till the place is shut usually, especially on the tours. I mean, they used to stay there, we used to have a drink and stuff like that. And generally just meeting people afterwards anyway, and people used to come up to them and say, Wicked, you're really good, and they're like, thank you very much.
Because the rave scene was so big in England, we managed to get a following quite quickly, just because of the size of the scene. And we had a sound that was quite popular in London, and it just grew from there really. We started doing lots of gigs up north, sort of Scotland, Manchester, places like that.
They've done the best of anything that's come out of any rave anywhere in the country. No one's topped what they've done. No one. and that's a nice little buzz when you think, well, that all happened on our little stage in little old Dalston, you know, for £80. Off you go.
I think when I first interviewed Liam, I realised straight away that here is a guy who really, really knows what he's doing. He had such an incredible fixed vision of what he wanted to do and where the Prodigy's music and image fitted in the world.
Sort of like released Charlie, and that was kind of the big break for us. It brought a lot of attention towards us and allowed us to do the type of things we wanted to do.
Charlie, you'll love, every time you hear it, you think about a time, a place. You know exactly where you were. I know I'll remember anyway. Tottenham High Road, I'll never forget it.
Charlie says he can't remember where he first heard the record, but he does remember Liam had big plans for the band.
Oh, Liam Howlett definitely wanted to be more than just a rave band. At the time, lots of dance music acts were relatively big, but with the accent on relative, but he saw beyond the genre of dance music and wanted to sort of take over the world, but do it his way with a sort of an edge of credibility, an edge of cool, if you like.
The band's aim to keep it real seemed to take a bit of a knock after their huge hit Charlie Says.
When Charlie came out, it was the record that took rave massively, not only into the charts, but it was also the record that started a whole wave of very trashy cartoon covers. There were people like the Aphex Twin did one, and Global Communications did one. There was, you know, Sesame's Treat, there was Rhubarb and Custard, there was all kinds of rubbishy records, and they all started with Charlie. The cover we did was Did Charlie Kill Rave? Because whether they liked it or not, I still believe that it probably was one of the catalysts. It did kill that scene.
Liam had basically been stitched up. He had appeared on the cover with a gun to his head, and somehow they'd managed to make him do this. And he was really mega pissed off with doing it and with Mixmag.
He really hated that, and because it painted the band as a sort of rather cheesy act, which was the furthest thing away from what he wanted to do. You remember, this is a kid who grew up playing hip-hop music, and hip-hop records, it's all about respect. It's all about credibility, it's all about not selling out, and that's how he started, so that colours his vision of where the Prodigy stood.
They were just a bunch of Essex ravers, you know, and they wanted to stay underground. We were asking them a lot of difficult questions about Charlie and whether Charlie, the single, was a sellout, whether they'd done it just to make money, and they were deeply, deeply offended by this suggestion, because as far as they was concerned, it was a subversive record and it was just a good laugh.
The only time we got criticism is when the other crap records, or the other rubbish records come out. Things like Trumps and Sesame Street, all the other Toy Town stuff, you know. We'd never written anything more like Charlie again, you know, it's only the one-off thing. So people could think what they want, but that record was original at the time. It started the whole scene off, you know.
It was very, very obviously going to be a massive hit as soon as it came out because of a Cat sample. We just thought it was a horrible record, to be honest. We thought their earlier records had been better.
They say they perhaps killed rave. Charlie come some few years ago, and You All Love and stuff, and we're still here, and the majority of the clubs that are playing dance music are still going. I don't think they killed rave. No. They might have helped to split it into different avenues as it's gone now, but I certainly don't think they killed rave.
The band were apparently going to send the boys round for me, although they never materialised. I don't know, I think they were pretty angry. They were pretty angry, but they did go back in the magazine a couple of years later, and then a couple of years later after that, although I think it was a video for Fire had copies of Mixmag being burnt by members of the Prodigy on a bonfire, so I think it rankled, I think it hit them pretty deep.
Charlie says he now knows it can be dangerous to make records, and he's never going to do it again.
I think the English press are the worst press in the world, because we feel like, and along with thousands of other artists, that you constantly have to battle with the press, because as soon as you show a slight bit of success, they want to bring you down, you know. And we're successful because we work hard in that scene, and we play lots and lots of PAs, and people come and see us, and they like us as an act on stage, and maybe they buy records because they like us like that. But it's so important to us that we get the right press and basically people who buy a record to understand what we're really about, you know?
It was a very, very useful lesson because it sort of taught him that the dance music elite were never going to accept him, so he had to go beyond them. It wasn't enough to get small-time credibility. He had to sort of take on the world and beat it at his own game.
When people were beginning to get sick of things like, naff takeoffs of children's TV themes like Trumpton and Sesame Street and stuff like that. I mean, Charlie, which was obviously, their hit, was the beginning of all that. But after that, they managed to somehow get away from all that and go on to something completely different.
It's a combination of the guitars, hard beats, techno, hip-hop. It doesn't stick to one particular style. It doesn't say, yes, I'm a techno record and you've got to be on drugs to listen to it. It's not thrashing at 200 BPM, do you know what I mean, and you can't dance to it. It's just a sensible speed and it's got a hard aggression to it, and that's what type of stuff we're into. It can be any music at any speed as long as it's got that kind of energy and hard sound to it. It's kind of like stirs you up inside. I'm not interested in music that's like, it's weak, do you know what I mean? Anything that's like weak stuff, it just doesn't do anything for you. I'm not interested in stuff like that.
Our music has got a lot of emotion in it, really. The sounds are all there to trigger off certain emotions, the beats, the bass, the techno noises, and you don't have to be, as Liam was saying, I mean, the tune doesn't have to be, how, the Gabba scene, for instance, that is, I mean, which is really cool. I mean, unless it's there for 8 hours, non-stop. But it's as if people have got it into their heads that a tune's only hard if it's going, but it's so...
Speed has got nothing to do with being hardcore, do you know what I mean?
No.
The hardcore is what you feel inside, personally. And to a certain amount, the actual sound it's producing, but it's nothing to do with speed, you know what I mean? Jilted generation is just people who just want to do their own thing, really. No?
The name is more of a sort of summary of the people that listen to the music. It's a sort of way of describing the people that are on the street level, open-minded people that sort of go to festivals, do exciting things, sort of like high-energy sports or anything with a lot of energy in it. That are slightly on the wrong side of the law, usually because of the sort of things they're into. Someone wants to go out skateboarding and goes to the local car park where they're going to get chucked off by the police. Parties in a field get shut down. They're the jilted people. People who want to get on, have a good time,
do their own thing. Basically play by their own rules instead of listen to what the government has to say,
As rave culture was sweeping the country, the government at the time sought to control what they saw as a threat to law and order. The Criminal Justice Act was passed, but not without resistance from many young people, and music for the jilted generation became a soundtrack for them.
That whole time, I mean, it was the era of restriction when it came to parties. The police were clamping down on raves, all the sound systems were having to be shut off. Young people didn't really know what to do about this. The act had been passed. I mean, they themselves had experienced what was happening. Their PA had been turned off because it was too noisy, which is one of the restrictions in the act. And to come along at that moment with an album called Music for the Jilted Generation, it kind of seemed to encapsulate everything that people were fighting for. They were just at the right place at the right time.
The music on that album is what I'm into, what I like. Anyone who says, oh, you've sold out, you do this for the money, is talking crap. It's like, I worked on that album for 6 months, do you know what I mean? There's no way I'd write an album in a month just to make some money. I could have done, but I've worked on that album for 6 months thinking what I'll be into, what kind of sounds I'm into. And I'm so pleased with the success of it. It's come to a total shock of us, We don't ever look for that success, that's the thing.
They'd had enough of commerciality when they released that album. The beginning of it actually starts, I want to get back underground, with Liam saying he wants to get away from people who are just talking about his music being commercial. He didn't want to be commercial, he didn't want to be successful, he simply wanted to do something different.
Everything I write is, I'm quite selfish, I write everything for myself, you know, and then for these guys and then for the audience, because if I can't be happy with my own music for myself, then I can't stand on a stage and perform it or even play it to anyone. So I've got to be confident with what I write myself.
You've got to write the music that you're into, because you don't want to fly to Sweden or Switzerland or anywhere in Europe really, or go to shows and go on tours for a month playing music that you're not into. You know, how can you spend so much time doing something and not be into it? I mean, no amount of money really makes up for that, does it?
Credibility is vital to them, man. They've never done Top of the Pops.
In Britain, that's quite a radical thing to say. Top of the Pops is the programme. You get on it, and it's a passport to success. Thousands and millions of people see you, and they all go out and buy your record. And say, no, I'm not going to do that because I can regard that as selling out. It's an incredible thing to do, particularly for a young band.
We don't stay in people's faces all the time. I mean, we hardly do any TV. This is quite a rare thing for us. In England, we don't do nothing. Well, we don't want to be like other pop bands. We just want to be gradually building up.
I know this is genuine. I know this is genuine. There's no one hyping us up.
They don't really do anything they don't want to do. You know, they'll go to #1 in the album charts in America and they'll just say, well, fine, you know, that's great, but we won't change our sound. They don't compromise.
We could have supported U2, but we turned it down, you know, because for us it's not like, we like U2, they're a good band, but like it's not really our thing, you know. We're going back to clubs, you know. We're going back to like 1,000 people in America. It's like starting again for us. It's a good buzz.
I mean, we could have easily jumped on the sort of British explosion that's going on over there, you know. It would have been easy to have toured with all the other bands that are going over there and sort of went as this sort of British package, but we've always stood on our own.
We could have broke America this year just by doing that one tour, and we just thought, no, we'll do it on our own. And so when people say that, I mean, all we're doing is standing up for what, keeping it raw, you know.
We don't go out our way to like be pushed into people's faces. We wait for people to discover us. You know, it's better for someone to come to a Prodigy show and say, yeah, they had a good time, and then tell their friends, and their friends come along and have a good time. You know.
When the Prodigy set out to enjoy themselves, they grabbed their boards and head straight for the snowy white slopes to go snowboarding.
They tend to spend a lot of money on snowboarding equipment and clothes and go snowboarding once a year, I think for 2 weeks.
no coincidence that the Prodigy are very big snowboard fans, and this works in their favour for the American market because, like the Beastie Boys come out of that skate tradition, and now they're big snowboarding fans. And skate and grunge are the two elements that really constitute the American punk.
I think the reason the Prodigy are really successful in America, and I suppose in a way why they're successful around the world, is there are lots of different strands to it. Firstly, in America, they embody two things which Americans like a lot, which is heavy metal and hip hop, which are both very thrusting, exciting types of music.
They'd mixed with a lot of different musicians, like Front 242 were very influential to them, and Pop Will Eat Itself, they did a collaboration with them as well. So they really weren't trying to be anything apart from themselves, I think, and just explore the musical influences which they'd happened to find.
I did record a track with Skin, which was good, but I didn't want to put it on the album because we had too many collaborations already. I didn't want to... It'll probably come out later on. Yeah. It's basically the same type of thing as we were doing before, really, but a bit more... maybe a bit more rock and roll, maybe, I don't know, just a lot more attitude in the music, slightly less techno-y. Keith started to do lyrics.
Yeah.
Max and Keith are working together on stuff. So yeah, the whole thing I feel is much tighter than before. I'm not really even into dance music a great deal anymore, because it doesn't really excite me. It doesn't really. I've heard a lot of heard it all before, you know. It's like, okay, people have been making guitar music for years and years, but I mean, it's good to mix styles together. The best thing about the Prodigy to me is like being able to travel around the world and experience different countries like America and Japan and places like that, just listening to different styles of music, and being able to think about when I'm sitting in the studio all the different experiences we've had. 4 years ago, when we were involved in the heavy rave scene in England, we couldn't have experimented with sound so much. You're limited to, and DJs will only, they'll do that. They'll only play certain music because it's got a certain sound to it, and then everyone else follows that thing. There aren't many people that try and break away from that. And I think we're lucky because we've been able to break away. There aren't many bands that can do that. There's a few that really do experiment that are good. But the point here is, like, Keith couldn't have got away with doing lyrics, I don't think, 4 years ago, because it wouldn't have fitted into what we're doing. Yeah. You know, but now, because we do festivals and do stuff like that, it's just an extension of the Prodigy.
Why not give something a go? You know, why sit there and wonder what it'd be like when you sit there and create it and know what it was like? So we did, you know.
It's no accident that they've signed with Madonna's label in the US, Maverick. You know. For me, it shows that they realise here's somebody who's a consummate manipulator of style, and by signing with her label, they're sort of entrusting their future to somebody who understands how to manipulate style, how to maximise the image. If MTV had decided to try and style the perfect MTV band, the band that incorporated the most elements from various different musical niches visually, and if they'd spent a lot of money and done a lot of research, they would have designed something like the Prodigy. You'd have the tall, good-looking, skinny black boy who wore with the cat's eyes, you know, and a bare chest most of the time, and some very nicely styled sort of gangster rap, baggy leather pants, and the right trainers. And then you'd have the short, sort of like funny little white one with the Catwoman hairstyle, you know, and the piercings and the makeup, running around in those cut-off shorts. Then you'd have, like, Liam is the kind of one who defines himself by his absence, so he's kind of boffin type who's never quite really at the foreground, you know, he's always lurking in the background with the machinery. And then of course Leroy is defined just by the fact that he's ballast for the others. He's the normal one, you know, he's the one that makes it just somehow more approachable.
If you saw a picture of Keith, even in silhouette, you could not fail to recognise him as being the lead dancer with The Prodigy, because he is just so instantly Keith. I mean, nobody looks like that. He's one of a kind.
Keith is The Prodigy's walking, talking attitude machine. As soon as Keith did Firestarter and appeared in that video, that pushed him to the front of the band. He appeared on a Rolling Stone cover in America on his own. I don't think he knew that was going to take place, and I think Rolling Stone might have pulled a bit of a fast one, being aware that it's a lot easier to sell one person on the cover than it is a band. I think this had major ructions in the group because they felt that in America they were being perceived as Keith and The Prodigy. And now, as I understand it, they insist on group covers. They get very upset if Keith's singled out, and I don't think Keith himself wants to be singled out. He sees himself as part of the group as well.
When the Face put Keith on the cover on his own, the band actually got quite pissed off, and in America people have been looking at Keith as a singer of a band. And the last cover we did, which was in July this year, we had to use a Prodigy approved photographer because of the previous, you know, circumstances, and all the group shots that he did, Keith's right at the back and Liam's right at the front, so I think they might be trying to redress that.
Remember the old Keith, the one with long hair? The clone. We're getting him back soon. I mean,
yeah.
Keith's. Do you know about that? Sorry,
I sensed it, Liam. I sensed it coming.
You've got to go.
Need a new look.
I think when they release Smack My Bitch Up, that'll be very interesting because it's a fantastic record. The lyrics appear to be, you know, very sexist and misogynistic. So it could cause an enormous hoo-ha, and I suppose that's the point. Anyone with any sort of grounding in dance music knows that you grab a sample from another record, it doesn't mean anything, nobody listens to the lyrics, nobody cares, and it's just the sound of the words, it's just the feel of the words that's important. So in a way, I think what Liam's trying to do is create a generational divide. He's saying, if you know about dance music, then you're going to understand why we've dropped these lyrics in, this sample, which goes, smack my bitch up. If you're past 35 and you don't understand dance music, you're going to say, how can they possibly advocate hitting women? So it could be their high tide mark in terms of publicity. So on the release of this single, I predict that they'll never ever get as much press ever again. But I'm sure they'll carry on making great records.
Slowly, you know, we can show how much, you know, that we have a little bit more to offer, and it's progression, and that things don't just stop here. You know, we don't want to just sort of reach a peak and then stop there and say, right, that's it, Prodigy's done. We want to try and make it grow, but genuinely as big as we possibly can.
If you think where they stand now in the middle of a lot of different musical styles, they could go off in any direction that they choose. It really is up to them.
With the whole scene, I think it's already proved it can stay around. I mean, it's been around like 5 or 6 years already, and people will always want to dance, and because technology is the future, you know, it's just like it's becoming more easier to write music, but I mean, it's easy for anyone to buy some equipment and write the techno music, but it's hard to come out of a sound that's original now, just because everyone's trying to do it now. But I think it's definitely here to stay.
Now, I mean, Liam's studio is probably 4 or 5 times the size of this, which you can see now. So, I mean, he's making all sorts of different noises and things like that. Give us a few tips, Liam. No. He's making all sorts of noises and things like that, and I dare say we'll be hearing some proper funky shit off them in the future. It was like working with one of the best dance bands in the world, and that's what it was, you know, and I'll always be grateful to them, definitely, for what they've done.
Well, we do what we do, and then we do it, and then it's done.
And what we've done is done, and that's how we do it.
What we're doing.
1997 has been the best year yet for the band. They've had worldwide #1s with Fat of the Land and Breathe, and at the end of the year they picked up a Q Magazine award and 3 MTV Music Awards. Can things get any better for the boys from Braintree?
We're The Prodigy, over and out.